In Formula 1, especially for the new fans and people getting into the sport, it's often hard to make sense of the plethora of words that are being used, such as paddock, degradation, oversteer and understeer, etc. So, what's better than having those words explained to you? Which is what we will do today, as we are trying to make it easier to get into the F1 world if you are unfamiliar with the many terms and specific words used here. So, sit back and relax, and let's get into the video. Sometimes it's really hard for even the F1 drivers to understand themselves because they are using very technical words. But once you get the hang of them, then it becomes much easier. They have their own language of sorts, but in the end, it all makes sense for them, which is what matters. Understeer/oversteer. Understeer means that the car doesn't have the grip at the front axle, so the car has a tendency to go straight into the corners and doesn't really rotate enough to make it through. And oversteer is exactly the opposite, which is quite obvious. The back end of the car is sliding a bit too much, so you have to correct it with the car as it has very little grip in the rear axle, so it tends to over-rotate in the corners and you have to control it. Hammer time. Hammer time is a term used by the Mercedes team to signal Hamilton to push after pitting. The term came about after Hamilton was annoyed by his engineer Bono that he uses too many words to tell him to push, and instead, he came up with the term hammer time. Tire degradation. Degradation occurs when tires start to lose performance, often described as dropping off, and degradation can lead to slower lap times as the tires wear out. But it can result from overheating the tires or using them more aggressively than necessary. Additionally, excessive degradation can necessitate more pit stops during a race. However, some races may have zero degradation, which would require no pit stops for tire changes. Tire graining. Tire graining happens when the tire becomes excessively hot, causing it to deteriorate and develop grooves on its surface. And this deterioration can be attributed to either low or high temperatures experienced by the tire, with the inner portion becoming hot due to factors such as braking, while the outer surface remains relatively cold. This temperature disparity triggers a chemical reaction known as graining. Specialized professionals are tasked with managing this phenomenon, as it pertains to the rubber composition of the tire, and, despite ongoing efforts, including those by tire experts like Pirelli, the teams in Formula 1 still don't have the complete understanding of it. Blistering. In F1, tire blistering occurs when super high temperatures begin to soften the bonds between the tire's inner layers. As a result of this, large chunks of rubber break away from the tire, creating a pockmarked effect. It comes from overheating within the tire structure and can arise from multiple factors during races. This includes the tar temperature exceeding the tire's tolerance level, excessively soft tires for the track conditions, overinflation leading to heightened heating as speed and downforce escalate, and rigid suspension setups imposing additional strain on the tires, compelling them to absorb shocks and consequently overheating. Slipstream. Slipstreaming is an aerodynamic technique commonly used in real-life F1. It occurs when an F1 car is aligned behind another to gain extra speed. This is thanks to the F1 car in the front punching a hole in the air for the F1 car behind them, and thus reducing the air resistance applied to the F1 car behind. And due to that hole in the air, you indirectly lose downforce, and as a result, it becomes slightly harder to steer. The closer you are aligned to the F1 car in front of you, the more speed you gain from slipstreaming. And the fastest both cars go, the greater the speed gained is. Parc fermé. Parc fermé, literally meaning closed park in French, is a secure area at a motor racing circuit where the cars are kept at some times during a race meeting. As per the FIA Formula 1 regulations, the designated area for cars must be sufficiently large and secure to prevent unauthorized access while facilitating technical checks. Cars are mandated to be placed in parc fermé within 3.5 hours after qualifying until 5 hours prior to the race formation lap's commencement. During this period, cars in parc fermé are off limits to any alterations without explicit permission from the FIA stewards. From the moment cars leave the pits for qualifying until the race formation lap begins, they are under parc fermé conditions. Only minor adjustments such as tire changes, refueling, brake bleeding, and minor front wing adjustments are permitted during this time, prohibiting major setup changes between qualifying and race day, and any violation of these regulations typically results in the car starting from the pit lane. The only exception to this rule is granted under climatic condition changes, where the race director may authorize teams to make necessary adjustments or, in cases of severe accidents, compromising the car's integrity. Undercut. An undercut is where a driver pits before the car in front to try and gain a position. This tactic relies on the team's belief that fitting fresher tires will result in increased pace, leading to a net gain over staying out on the track until the other cars pit. And depending on the overall strategy, the team may opt for the same tire compound or choose from the available options. The undercut is frequently employed at circuits where overtaking is challenging, such as the Hungaroring and Singapore, where strategic maneuvers offer the best chance for advancement. It is considered one of the primary tools for overtaking in F1. A notable example occurred during the 2019 Singapore Grand Prix, where Sebastian Vettel successfully executed an undercut by pitting from third place before Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. With fresh tires, Vettel completed a quick outlap while those ahead had slower inlaps. As a result, Vettel emerged from the pits ahead of Leclerc, securing the net race lead and ultimately winning the race, marking his 53rd and final F1 victory. However, the undercut strategy carries risks, including potentially conceding track positions to cars behind and the need to rejoin the track in a clear space without encountering slower traffic after the pit stop. Dirty and clean air. Clean air is a term used to describe the air around a car that is not affected by the exhaust from another car. And dirty air, on the other hand, is the term used to describe the exhaust-filled air surrounding a car that is being overtaken. When a car passes through clean air, it experiences less drag and therefore has an advantage over cars in dirty air. And while dirty air can be frustrating for drivers trying to overtake, it can also be used strategically, as leading drivers can use it to block their opponents and prevent them from making a move. The study of clean air and dirty air is an important part of Formula One racing, and teams are always looking for ways to gain an advantage over their rivals. Apex. Apex is the middle point of the inside line around a corner at which drivers aim their cars. Basically, it's just the corner inside of the corner that you have to hit, and you have to, let's say, shortcut the circuit as much as you can. Driving as close as possible to the apex or hitting the apex ensures the driver is taking the straightest possible line and maintaining the highest speed through a corner. Racing line. The racing line is the optimum route through the corner, such that the time spent in the corner is minimized and the average speed is maximized. Drivers try to make corners as straight as possible to carry as high a minimum speed as they can, and the general aim of each corner is to hit the apex, the closest bit of the corner to the car through the middle of it. Each corner will typically have one line through it, which is the quickest, and this is the one that drivers will use constantly throughout the Grand Prix weekend. Bottoming. Bottoming out in Formula One refers to the situation where the underbody of an F1 car makes contact with the track surface. F1 cars are engineered with an exceptionally low ride height to maximize their center of gravity and generate downforce efficiently, making them particularly vulnerable to bottoming out. The ride height, representing the distance between the car's underside and the road, plays a crucial role in several aspects, one of which is aerodynamics, because a lower ride height facilitates smoother airflow beneath the car, leading to enhanced downforce and reduced drag, thereby improving overall aerodynamic performance. The other one is handling, because with a lower center of gravity, F1 cars exhibit superior handling and cornering capabilities, translating into enhanced grip and overall on-track performance. Track limits. Track limits in Formula One are marked by white lines encircling the perimeter of the circuit, establishing boundaries that drivers must adhere to and not surpass. And any instance where a driver's vehicle exceeds these limits, typically indicated by all four wheels crossing the defined boundary, can result in penalties imposed by FIA stewards if they deem an advantage has been gained. These limits serve to delineate the track's edges and prevent drivers from exploiting certain corners to their benefit. For instance, Corners lacking grass or gravel on the entry or exit can be exploited by taking a wider lane, thereby increasing the car's minimum speed and enabling drivers to carry more momentum through the corner, ultimately reducing lap times. Drifting. Drifting is basically oversteering, and is generally not encouraged in Formula 1 due to its potential negative impact on performance. However, in simpler terms, drifting involves intentionally sliding the car through a corner, a practice often enjoyed by enthusiasts in road cars. Unlike the typical forward-facing driving perspective, drifting allows the driver to look out of the side window while maneuvering. And although not commonly used in F1 due to the emphasis on precise, rail-liking cornering, drifting remains a favorite driving style for some, as it entails executing a controlled four-wheel slide at an angle of around 45 or 50 degrees towards the desired direction of the turn. So, that's gonna do it for today. We hope you learned something new about Formula 1, and if you have any more unknown words, let us know in the comments below, and we will be glad to help you. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.